Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm going to be giving you part 2 of What If Naruto Went Insane with a Powerful Bloodline. Remember to get this one to 100 like as usual. Share this to all of your friends on your social media platform. And also guys, stay in tune for the rest of what is coming your way over an Anime King 2 and Anime King 3. If you're new, yes, you heard that correctly. I indeed have 3 channels, Anime King, Anime King 2, and Making 3, which I post what if on every single day for you guys to enjoy. So go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all for your help and support. And yeah, without further ado, what is to begin this new episode? Start the intro. So the last time we left off, we start the episode off with Inuzuka running for his life as he was being chased by someone, a bat that connected with him as he was sent sailing. As he looked up at the person, which was none other than Naruto, Uzumaki himself, with this crazy look in his eyes. As Naruto caught the man, Inuzuka knew that he was done for as he started to plead for his life. As Naruto finds the whole of this rather amusing, as he laughed, he smiled, he mocked the man's pain. As Inuzuka tried to get away, but Naruto assaulted him on the worst way possible, as he repeatedly struck the bat across his face, breaking it in until he dented the metal bat with the amount of force that he used. Chains then extended from his body as he used it to climb up the walls as he left. As the Yonzos came to investigate, the reason why he was like this was because of them. I know he was here hunting them down. It happened when he was 8 years old. Jiraiya of the Sannin was found dead in his apartment, as Naruto was holding onto a rusty kunai with a dead heart in his hand. It made no sense. Something happened that they could not explain. One moment Naruto was at the library, next moment he was in his apartment. It was like he teleported. As Kakashi and his group knew this, the evidence was, well, small at best, but the council refused to believe it because Jiraiya was still dead and Naruto seemed to be the one responsible, even though Jiraiya was a son and Naruto was an 8-year-old kid. So they sent him to prison. The civilian council paid off the guards to beat the living crap out of him. Years upon years, he was subjugated to nothing but the worst treatment possible, as that slowly, but accurately drive him insane, until a point where the fox started to teach him. As Naruto learned about his bloodline, he had a magnetic bloodline as he could feel the magnetic force around someone, not to mention he used it to keep himself alive when he was hardly fed or given food. Hiruzen had died as Tsunade had taken over. She could have released him, but she feared what that long time in prison has done to his psyche. So she was the one that canceled all the beatings and placed him in isolation so he can get fed every day. But the guards did not feed him one bit though. They decided to go against Tsunade's orders and attack him once again as the warden looked the other way. Tsunade had fired the warden once. She found out, but it was too late. Naruto was already gone. As he faked his death, they thought that he was dead, but he was not. He was alive and well. As he visited Ichiraku Ramen to make the man send Tsunade a message, as it was a poem, telling her that he was coming for him. As she felt something creep up her spine, as Choza and Shikaku was furious at the state that someone put their best friend in. His head was literally bashed off. They wanted to find a person, they wanted to end that person. But Naruto was having too much fun making them suffer and he would not be found. As he started to go around Konoha, he made his way towards his next destination, as Tasumi had been helping them but the scent had gone dry. But as she made her way home, she stopped in shock when she smelled Naruto inside, as she could also smell Kiba and Hana as well. He was in there with her babies, as a frightened look came on her face. So yeah guys, it was basically as we left off. You guys can switch across the place and check out for yourself. So this will be in this new episode. There were hundreds of smells in the Inuzuka clan head house, smack dab at the back of the clan, closest to the kennels and the south gate of Konoha. The most prominent of these smells was the three main occupants: Tasumi, clan head; Hana, heiress to the clan and veterinarian, she was a chonin; and her brother, the youngest, Kiba Inuzuka, genin. Their scents would be strongest when they were at home, and mildly weak when they were not there. Of course, there were also the smells of their respective dogs and visitors every now and then, but they were the oldest occupants of the house. Once the Inuzuka arrived to the door, they could smell everything from there, as their nose was closest to a dog than anyone else. That is why Tasumi knew something was terribly wrong. As she opened the door, she could smell Hana, she could smell Kiba, but she couldn't smell the guests when she entered. But outside she could smell him. The parlor was empty. The television was switched off. The light in the hall led on down. She did not go up the stairs. She made her way down the path where she could smell where her kids were. As she pulled out a kunai, as she pressed herself against the door frame, until she was hit with the smell of her daughter's cooking. She then heard a crunch. "Ah, Hana, this is just delicious." As the voice sounded male, like an older teenager, perhaps 16 to 18. As the person seemed to enjoy more of the food. As the person moaned delightfully, telling Hana how delicious it was. "You have got to give me the recipe." Tasumi heard Hana bashfully laugh, as she teasingly slapped the person's hands. "It's nothing really, just frank fish." "I haven't tasted frank fish this good," the male said, as he went in for another bite. "So, what do you think, Kiba?" he asked. There were some muffled grunts as Kiba wolfed down his food, as he wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. It's okay," he said. The guest diverted Hana before she could yell at her brother for his bad manners. "What's your secret, Hana?" he asked. Hana opened her mouth to answer, but Tasumi had enough. As she swept in the room, all eyes immediately fell on her. She took a small, shocking, surprised step back as she saw the visitor, a teen with bright blonde hair and sparkling blue eyes, with a silver dot at the center. It was like a spinning island of silver in a bright blue ocean. He was in a long-sleeved dark shirt and midnight black ninja pants that stopped at his ankles, finishing off with black sandals. She gasped as she saw him. Those whiskered cheeks curved up into a smile. "Lady Tasumi, I was wondering when you'd be back." As Hana sat to his right and Kiba sat to his left, Hana was about to pick up Naruto's plate to serve him more, as Kiba calmly patted his stomach. They both looked at their mother concerned as she took a third step back, her eyes open wide as she was shocked. "Hana has made a wonderful meal. Pull up a seat and have some." Naruto," she said. But I thought that you were..." She trailed off as he tilted his head. As his smile widened, his hands clenched, the fork and knife tighter, as she instantly got the message. As he gave her a big smile, showing his pearly whites. It was then that she noticed the fork and knife that Hana and Kiba had twitched slightly. He had them hostage and they did not even know it. As Naruto repeated himself this time in a more deeper, assertive voice, "Have a seat, Lady Tasumi," he said. His bloodline. Her mind warned her instantly. She mechanically walked to her seat as she sat down, as her daughter served her a piping, wonderful plate of meal. But as she looked down towards the fish and the sauce, her appetite left her. As she simply stared at the meal, her hands flexing as she gulped, as she looked towards their so-called guests. Hana was helping him with another serving. blushing as he complimented her, and Kiba was mouthing off about the C-rank mission he went on earlier, claiming that he had saved both of his teammates' life. As Naruto nodded along, as he encouraged Kiba to go on, but Tasumi was not deceived. As she clenched her fists, as she grit her teeth, controlling the urge to launch herself at him from over the table. Can't they feel his killer intent? Her reflex roared at her, ordering her to flee the home with her children, or else hell would rain down on them. As if you looked at him, without knowing who he was, you would not think anything else. He looked like a calm, normal 16-year-old. He flirted with Hana, as she slapped his hand away and joked with him. He nodded for Kiba to go on. Her children, just his attitude, because he gave away nothing. He was calm, happy, cheerful, and it made him look normal, but she knew otherwise though. He had them in the palm of his hands, as he occasionally sent her smirks every now and then. At first she thought that he was a smell coming from outside, but it was not. He smelled of literally nothing. It made no sense. With a house filled with smells, Kiba and Hana did not notice that. Ever so calmly she felt a calm, gentle flow of breeze, as her children's smell started to mingle with his, a camouflage from her nose. As his eyes flashed silver as he looked up at her, he was invisible. There was no way that she or any Inuzuka could find him if he decided to hide in the compound. He was untraceable. The magnetic forces that control and carry nature chakra around Naruto also carried smell. All he did was carry the house smell around him and place it on his body, making him smell like the house itself, and had no smell of his own. He was sitting right there, but at the same time he was nowhere and also everywhere, because he smelled like the entire house. As she saw a spectral being behind the boy, as he looked at her once again, a dark entity. It was dark as night, as it was letting off a wispy darkness at the bottom of its cloak. The darkness warped together into tentacles that were flapping all around the boy. Two of them wrapped around her children, and more tentacles went up the walls and all over the place. It had no face, but she saw 9 tails of darkness waving smoothly behind him. 2 large tentacles merged together to form 2 large demonic hands. As they had their hands on her children's back, this spiritual manifestation of Naruto's hate, the 9-tailed fox, even though it had no face, she could feel it staring directly into her soul. As sweat burst on her forehead and started to run down her face, she jumped in surprise as a gentle hand touched her shoulder. "Oi, Mom, are you okay?" "You look so pale," said Hana, as she looked towards her mother, wondering what was the problem. She wiped her forehead with the back of her hand. "I'm fine," she said. "You guys should go. I want to speak to Naruto privately." Naruto laughed as he shook his head. No, please stay. This discussion concerns you two as well." She gripped her fork as she banged it, but Naruto smiled never away for one bit. As Naruto gently ushered Hana to sit back down, Tasumi's nose flared as she breathed out, "Naruto, please." But Naruto cut her off before she could say please. "Kiba, do you know what being helpless means?" Naruto asked, as he turned towards the 12-year-old boy with a raised eyebrow, waiting for him to answer. Kiba huffed as he nodded, easy. "It means not being able to defend or protect yourself." As Naruto clapped his hand on Kiba's shoulder, as Tasumi snapped her fork in half. "That's right, man. Being helpless is the inability to protect or defend yourself. Like a tiny little leaf tossed around a tornado, it can only go where it is forced to go. It has no say. It can do nothing. When the whole world is against you, when the whole village is against you, they put you in a situation where you are a slave to their advances, their words and their actions." His eyes darkened as the hand on Kiba's shoulder tightened a bit. No matter what you say or no matter how much you do it, you're helpless to these forces that try to put you down. These people that strive to put you under their feet and shatter your hope. As he removed his hand and sat back, as his eyes focused on Tasumi. "In those kind of situations, Kiba, When there's someone that is helpless, said Naruto. As he was speaking, he was focused on Tatsumi the entire time. There was always someone that could do something to help out, thus turning helpless into helped. From simply allowing the victim to fear, ruling, a hearing, or do a bit of investigating. Or maybe if you're feeling extra generous, show some proof that will help the person out of that difficult situation. Just give them some time to prove that you're not guilty. As Tatsumi opened her mouth, Naruto, but he cut her off once again. You don't have to be weak to be helpless, said Naruto. You could be a Jonin ninja, a head of your clan, and still be helpless. As Kiba and Hana fought twitch, as Tatsumi's eyes widened, Hana gulped nervously. Something was wrong. As she tried to stand up, but an invisible force slammed her back in her seat. Seeing that, Kiba got freaked out as he tried to get up as well, but he was also forcefully put down. Helpless can also mean not being able to save the ones that you love. One of Konoha's best kunoichi, render as a helpless child wearing suppression seals. Helpless as an 8-year-old boy wearing chains thrown into a prison with gangbangers. And child molesters, child rapers, serial killers. As helpless as an innocent kid being beaten half to death by grown men and women at the order of the council. Do you know what it feels like to be helpless? Tatsumi said Naruto, as he placed his hand on the table. The woman leaped as an unseen force slammed her right on the table, breaking through it. She tried to get back up, but some force around her body picked her up and slammed her in the wall, before bringing her head and slamming it in the ground. Mom! Kiba cried out, as he turned to fight Naruto, but the chains that he could not see bind him. As Naruto chuckled as he got to his feet, as Kiba and Hana was forcefully brought to their feet as well. You don't know what it truly feels like to be helpless, Lady Tatsumi said Naruto, as he opened both of his hands. Let me show you, he said. As he flicked his right hand as she was forced against a wall, as her two hands were behind her, her head brought up so that she could see him perfectly. As he stood between her two children, just a single grain of sand on their body was more than enough to make their unseen magnetic waves bow to his will. These waves no longer passed over their body anymore. Rather, it went through them, through their main chakra pathways. And now they were helpless Naruto, who could control them like they were nothing but puppets. It wasn't easy planting a single chakra grain on someone like a high-level ninja like Tatsumi, because the sand would always admit a faint chakra pulse every time it moves. That meant he had to place it or shut it out while she was distracted. And she got distracted when she realized that Hana was under his control. She was helpless as she watched Naruto grab both of her kids' shoulders. Their right elbows snap in the wrong direction as Naruto covered their mouth as they screamed, tears pooling from their eyes. Tatsumi struggled against the force as she tried to get free as their left elbows snapped as they cry in pain. Their shoulders rolled and was violently pulled towards the ground, tearing them down. Their knees snapped inwards, knocking against each other. As Tatsumi screamed for him to have mercy, she pleaded to forgive her. She cried, she wept, she howled with each fracture he caused to her children. No, stop it, please, I'm begging you, she begged. Nearly all of their limbs were bent in the wrong directions. Their knees creaked forward, their toes curled back, their ankles twisted and popped. She wrenched her eyes shut as she tried to close her ears to the muffled screams of her children, as she was unable to do anything. As she heard Hana muffled screams for help, save them, the children cried. Tears pooled down her cheeks as her body wiggled as she tried to get free. Naruto, no, I'll do anything you want, anything. Please, don't do this. Her cries went unheard as Naruto slammed a fist into both of their stomachs, as he relished in Tatsumi's pain. They're innocent, they didn't do anything wrong. As Naruto sighed, innocent. I was innocent once as well. He smirked at Hana as her tears turned red, as blood dribbled down the corner of her mouth. Must be nice being innocent, said Naruto. As Hana could not lift her head to spit at him, as she spat at his feet, as she huffed as she panted. "I like this girl," said Naruto. "She has some fight in her." As Tasumi was now openly crying, as she was wondering why her screams were not alerting the rest of the clan. Her eyes were forced open as she was forced to see her babies, limbs broken and twisted. Kiba was already close to death. His eyes were shut in, his breathing was shallow, blood dripped from the corner of his mouth, and a visible twitch was in his neck. Her eyes widened as her hands moved, as she pulled 2 kunais from her pouch. But she was not doing this. "Wait, no, stop, don't do this, Naruto," she screamed. As she stopped in front of Naruto, as Naruto patted her on the cheeks. "This, dear Tasumi, is what it feels like to be helpless," she cried as her kunais ripped into Hana and Kiba's neck, tearing out their jugglers. The two fell down, their eyes widened, looking at their mother. Not for too long though, as they died. That was when Naruto released his hold on her. Tasumi stepped back in horror as she looked at her bloody, shaking hands. She heard Naruto make his way to the door, but the energy chased after him and get revenge for her children. She could not move, as her entire body was shaking at her bloody hands, the blood that belonged to her children. As she collapsed on her knees, as she heard Naruto yell something outside. "Lady Tasumi, what have you done?" As she could hear the 2 dead bodies, dislocated, pop back into their sockets, as they sat down, as their bodies returned back normal, no longer bended and twisted. She could not look up to face them, as Naruto controlled them and made them sit back down in the chair, as their heads dropped onto their shoulder, looking towards the traumatized mother. As Naruto had caused many attention when he shouted, "What have you done?" As people started to gather, Tsunade was immediately called. Tasumi yelled that Naruto was the one that did this, that he was the one that controlled her. But the thing was, there was nothing to prove that Naruto was here. A dozen Inuzuka could testify that he was not. There was no scent. She tried to tell them that he was. She tried to prove it by showing the plate and fork where he eat from, but it was not there. Nothing was there. Nothing that showed that Naruto was here. As all evidence pointed to Tasumi killing her own kids. The fact that she kept on insisting that Naruto was the one that possessed her to do so caused Tsunade to get her envoys. As everyone realized that Tasumi Inuzuka has lost her mind, so they placed her in the Konoha psychiatric ward. As she kept on screaming that Naruto did this, the Inuzuka searched the house, head to toe. The envoy searched her house, but there was no one else here. As the kunai was there on the ground, with the blood all over her hands, all the evidence, she killed her children. All the evidence were there, but a lot didn't believe it. Council meeting. "You can't possibly think that Tasumi killed her children, Lady Tsunade," said Koharu. Her fingerprints was nowhere near them. Tsunade snapped her gaze towards the old woman. She did not think that the woman was guilty as well. Her fingerprints were on the murder weapon though, and she said that she was the one to do it, as she had told them that she was being forced by Naruto to do it. Until we can find something else to prove that is linked to a bigger murderer within Konoha, Tasumi is guilty for double homicide. The only way we can calm the tension down is by putting her away for now, as the room was rather depressing. As Tsunade wanted to say that since Tasumi was being taken care of in the psychiatric ward and not the fire pit, she would be fine until the real murderer was taken down for good. But she held her tongue. As Choza spoke, didn't she say that she was under the influence? She said that she was possessed by Naruto Uzumaki, said Tsunade. "I was with her," said Hayashi. "For the greater part of yesterday, we were looking around the area to try and find anything that might link someone to Inuichi's death, and she did not seem out of the ordinary. We need to put this behind us for now and face the so far unsolved murder of Inuichi," said Tsunade. As she looked at all of them, the meeting was only open to the shinobi side and the advisors, much to the outrage of the civilian council. But there was also Ibiki and Uncle here as well. "Anything new come up?" asked Tsunade. "I interrogated Toki and Ayam Ichiraku, and I did so as humane as possible," said Ibiki. "He says if he tell us who gave him that poem to give you, he would do unspeakable things to his daughter." As Uncle stood there, she was serious, as she had to be. Inuichi got murdered, and no Tasumi was being blamed for killing her own 2 children. Something was definitely wrong within Konoha. As she nodded in agreement, as she had taken the statement as well. I had to promise him the protection of 5 Jonin, and 3 Chunin before. He gave us the name of the person that gave him the letter. As he looked down towards the report, and who had broken his wrist. Well, said Shikaku. He described Naruto Uzumaki Lady Hokage. The room went quiet as a graveyard. Shibe. Out of all the people, Shibe was the one that stuttered. Naruto Uzumaki? His eyebrows were high up his forehead, the sign to show that he was shocked at the revelation. It meant that Tasumi was right, that Naruto was there, but he was controlling her? Was it possible that it was his vengeful ghost that was coming after the council for putting him away for 6 years? Tsunade Senju was a woman of science. She didn't believe in ghosts, but even she found this chilling. She was the one that conducted the autopsy on Naruto's dead body when he was brought back to Konoha. As she confirmed from his medical records that it was him. It was him. It had to be him. It had to be. As she started questioning herself. As the other members started to mutter that it couldn't be him. Perhaps it could be an imposter that sympathized with him, said Hayashi, as that was the only thing that he could think of right now. As he looked towards the others, as all of them were worried about the situation, and that was the only explanation they had. Choza swallowed thickly as he muttered, that means he will be coming after all of us. Danzo had been quiet up until that moment. Are you by chance afraid of that person, he asked. Choza snapped at the man. You seem to have forgotten what he did to Inuichi, and how he did it. As he slammed his fist on the table, that person can seal away chakra and gain control over a highly skilled ninja body. He didn't need to say it, but they all knew it. They were all scared, except for Danzo it seems, as he snorted in mild disgust. And you call yourself a ninja to be afraid of 2 upstarts? That's find a way to manhandle 2 Jonins. You're a disgrace. Shikaku had to grab onto his best friend from behind so he did not tackle the elderly man. Tsunade slammed her hands down for them to calm down. Naruto, or imposter, it does not matter, this person is running around the village, killing people. We need to catch him and bring him to justice before any more innocent life is lost. She looked towards Shikaku. Do you have any idea how to lure him out? He removed his arm from Choza as soon as the man calmed down, as he entered his thinking position. As he closed his eyes, as all of them waited patiently until he opened them. I have a few plans, he said. A distance away, sitting on a stool at Ichiwaka Ramen. As he sat there, with headphones on, as Ayam walked up towards him. Would you like more chicken ramen? Kamaizuru, she asked. No thank you, said Naruto, as he had a book in his hand. Ichi. Weapons for freaks. As he sat there calmly, as he seemed to be able to hear everything. First, Toki sell me out, as Naruto shook his head. And second, they think I'm an imposter, as he gripped the end of the table tightly. And they think they can catch me before I'm done exacting my revenge on Konoha. As he had to bit his lip as an uncontrollable laughter erupted from his stomach. This is almost too good, as he had to calm himself from not shaking with amusement. As he listened in for 10 long minutes, until the council went silent, but he knew that they were still in there. As he saw 2 of the Jonins, assigned to the ramen bar, shot him a look, before they returned back to their card playing. People are so unreliable these days. Tell them a straightforward statement, and they go around your back and squeal. So rude, he said. The device that he had placed in the Hokage's lunch order for that day beeped mutely as it kept track of the conversation. It was made out of metal and was taped to the bottom of the lunch order box. If it was discovered and they find a way to track it, he didn't really care. He could leave behind his headphones. He had 4 more of them. Plus, with the kind of music that he listened to, he needed to have a spare set just in case it broke. You are too well guarded for me to live on my promise. Toki, my friend, said Naruto as he traced his fingers over the book, like he was reading it. There were 5 Jonins and 3 Chunins in the bar. Even though he could take them all, he would attract the attention of other shinobis. As he laughed darkly. What am I saying? You aren't guarded enough. His right hand went through his pocket as he pulled out a piece of rectangular paper as he wedged it in the book to save the page. Ayam slipped in front of his counter with a warm smile. You've been laughing for a while, Kamazaru. Is it really that good, she asked, as she pointed towards the book. As he smiled at her, his face looked completely different, with a small illusion. It's a classical type of comedy, one that old people enjoy. You're into classic comedy? She said. Well, the good old days always seem better than these days, I think. The comedy back then was still learning what it takes to be comedy, and it was trying to make it work for people to enjoy it. There were limits, but it wasn't bound by these limits. He said, leaning forward as she mimicked his actions. Do you know what I mean? She felt her heart race as she copied him. As he licked his lips, she licked her lips as well. I think so, she said. She leaped back as her father spoke. Order up for table 4. Oh, I'm coming, father, she said, as she then turned back to look at the customer that she almost kissed as they were going in so close. She didn't know why. I'll be right back. No, wait, said Naruto. I have to go now. My boss is gonna kill me if I'm late for work again. He passed through the book that he was reading, the only book by Jerry of the Sonya that was not a smut. It was about a tale of adventure and mystery. You can have this if you want. You can tell me whether or not you like it later. As he hopped off his stool, the Jonin that was sitting there approached to check the book as Naruto left. It was easily able to cast a relaxing illusion on a civilian. This was to drop her guard, for her to get the book in her hands. Her reaction for being attracted to him was surprising, but it made it a lot more better. As Naruto disappeared in a swarm of leaf, deceiving people that he was a Konoha ninja. As he appeared around a building corner, he made sure no one saw him as he pulled out his right sleeve. 5, 4, 3, boom! As Naruto pulled himself behind the alley, as smoke rushed past him, as ninjas started to spread around, alarmed at the explosion that wiped away Ichiroku Ramen. He cloaked his body with magnetic forces to suppress his presence being there. As he suppressed his chakra to the minimum, as he frowned as he looked towards a watch on his hand. Did I set the timer right? He asked himself. As he frowned, while the rest of Konoha was in chaos. Meanwhile, at the council room, his first crime showed that he's a savage. His second crime, however, showed that there is not any line that he will not cross morally. Said Shikaku, he's strong, he's stealthy, he's vile, and he's cruel. He, whoever he is hell-bent on taking revenge for what was done to Naruto, and killing children is something that he does not care about. Most of all, his first and second crimes give me the uncomfortable feeling that, as Shikaku paused, as he focused on Tsunade as he spoke, that this person is unhinged. You think he's crazy, said Tsunade. Very much so. This leads me to believe that he was very close to Naruto, or a distant admirer, and he has been stewing in insanity until it finally left him. No moral line that he would not cross. That word was all in their minds. Insane as well. As Hayashi coughed to get their attention, then our families aren't safe. No one is safe, said Shikaku. A council of grown men and women and shinobis and civilians had thrown an 8-year-old boy into prison for a crime that he did not commit, and most of the others threw dirt and stone at him for a completely different reason. No one was safe, thought Shikaku to himself. But there is some pattern to his madness. As Danzo narrowed his gaze at that. What do you mean? He asked. He went after Inuichi first, and then Tasume. Two of these people were in perfect positions to exonerate Naruto when he was charged for a murder. Inuichi could have entered his mind to confirm his claims, and Tasume could have confirmed that his scent had disappeared from the academy grounds and reappeared in his apartment. Two locations that are at least 100 yards apart. This is all by using their bloodline and their ninja ability, respectively. Naruto was a smart boy. He knew that there were clans in the village that could help him, but I'm positive that he did not know about the tracking seal that was placed on his back. Tsunade's eyebrows furrowed as her eyes widened to what the man was saying. Wait, that means... As he nodded, Yes, there are still two more people in this room that could have cleared him of his murder charge. The members of the council turned towards Shibuya Burmi. Me, he said. Your bugs. Sniff out Chalker, said Shikaku. They could confirm that he was nowhere near the crime scene when Lord Jiraiya was murdered. And me, said Shikaku. I could have been the logical voice. No matter how much you look at it, no matter if he had a bloodline, there was no way possible that Naruto could just teleport 100 yards to his apartment and more than less kill a Sannin. Jiraiya was a Sannin, one of the most powerful ninja they had. That was just not possible. Their joint decision to throw Naruto into a maximum prison came from a life of scorn and hate, and Naruto was coming back to bite them in the ass. Inoichi was dead, Tatsumi was insane, and whoever it was taking their time to personally finish each and every one of them off. He will come after you next. You're higher load of the ladder than I am. Or, as Shikaku swallowed thickly, since the third is dead, he might go after. As Koharu gasped, Konohamaru. They want to say the murderer could not possibly kill or torture an 8-year-old boy, but those words die in their throat. We have to assume that the person has been planning this for years now. He can be a part of the Hokage's staff or even Anvu. He has shown that he's possibly a Kage level ninja. We also need to assume that he's highly proficient in illusions. No one heard Inuichi's screams or detected the trouble in Tatsumi's house, and he has some sort of jutsu or bloodline that can control the body of another person without expelling chakra. He strikes at random but specific targets, so we cannot be sure when he's gonna attack. That also means we need to be extra careful with the plan I'm about to say. As he placed both his hands on the table and looked towards Nade, a questioning look, as she understood what it meant. Privacy seal. She tapped her dexter pointer finger. There was a low buzz as the seal activated. The guards on the other side of the door went on alert when they heard that. They could hear nothing inside, and the doors were no lock. Shikaku nodded as he signed with his hands. We use hand signs from now on, he said, using the sign with his hands. They all agreed to this until a massive explosion went off. They moved towards the window as they saw the gaping flames. As Nade focused on the location, Ichiraku Ramen. She didn't remember that Tuki and Ayam had been persistent to return back to work to calm their nerves down after their experience with Naruto. As her ninjas quickly spring to action, time skip 5 days after the council meeting, the Poison Honey Nightclub, Konoha Red Light District. He could already feel a pulse of music thudding through the ground as he approached the nightclub. He adjusted his hand as he had a black duffel bag in his hand, as he lowered the cap on his head, as he ran his next hand down his green and grey suit. As he marched towards the thumping nightclub, there was a long line at the entrance. Teens and adults wanting to release the stress of the past couple of days, as some of them were too young but they had their fake IDs. As he got to the front as a bouncer, a heavily tall man, bald head, quite muscular, baggy cargo pants and a black sleeve shirt, looked down at him. The man ignored all the outrageous yells as he skipped past those who had been waiting for hours to get into the club. He pulled out his work ID and showed it to the bouncer. Obaru, Miltu, Kibakatsu, Misaki. As the man lips scrutinized, he tried to pronounce the strange long name. It's actually Obaru, Miltu, Kabaka, Misukazaki. The bouncer and most behind him laughed at the name. That's one stupid name. What kind of name is that? As the man frowned deepened, my father gave me that name. The bouncer chuckled. Well, your father is stupid, he said, as he was inviting the shorter man for a fight. Some quick action to distract him from guarding the boring door. He was a former Chunin that was removed from the Shinobi roster for using illegal drugs and physically abusing 4 of his ex-girlfriends. Life had taken such a low dip he was forced to star as an extra in porn movies and take part-time jobs as a bouncer. He was in a desperate need to release some of his tension, and people had shown that they were not willing to fight to get inside, so he was getting more and more pent up. Obaru, though, was not going to humor the disgraced man. Your boss called me. He said that there were some faulty lights. As his blue, silver eyes could not be seen under his cap. The door opened as a black-haired man, much smaller than the bouncer, came out. Finally! Come in, he said. As Obru, the electrician, stepped past the bouncer. Oh, your zipper is loose. As he entered, he heard a girl laugh outside. I thought there was a boil, she said. Another girl laughed. A boil? I thought it was a pimple. As they all started to laugh at the bouncer. As the electrician slammed the door shut before the bouncer could realize what he had done. The nightclub had 2 levels. On the bottom floor there was 10 rooms, 9 of which was used for escort services, while the 10th room was a master room. It was where the wires to the sound system and lights were controlled, but no one was allowed inside, except for the manager. The DJ, a woman in her early teens called G Klops, was at the front of the dance floor. The manager grabbed Obru by his hand and dragged him straight towards the electric room. As he was going through, people tried to rub up against him, telling him to dance with them. As the manager shouted that there was a disturbance and something was wrong with the ventilation system for a while now. Obru told him that he will get it done as the manager left immediately, as he wanted to go back to the party. As Obru threw off the cap, as his blonde hair shimmered into existence, his shiny blue eyes with silver inside of them looked around, the whiskers popping up on his cheeks. As Naruto dropped the duffel bag as he looked around, the room's a lot smaller than I remember. The last time he was here was about 6 in the evening, when they were preparing to get the party started. He had posed as Obru, a middle-aged hardass that he had killed, and stole his identity, as he was a part of Konoha Electric Company. There were a few pipes wiring on the wall, and a small window to prevent anything from overheating. As he sat on the wooden chair placed in front of the master computer, as he kicked the bottom as the dead spider that he had placed there fell out, as the scratchy sound was gone, and he solved the other one, seeing that he was the one that caused them all. After all, this was all a setup. The Poison Honey Nightclub was the most popular club in the village at night time. It was always packed to the brim with horny, frustrated pervs, and the place was perfect for him to continue his plans. The village was still anxious even days after the explosion, and security had been put on high alert. There were ninjas everywhere, and he meant everywhere. Konoha was red hot and ready to intercept any problem. The tension was so high that even firecrackers were forbidden from use, as Naruto had to kill at least 6 people to steal their identity. To get through to certain places, the burial for the people that died in Ichiraku had happened 2 days ago, and people were still mourning. About 22 patients of the stand, plus Ichiraku Ramen and Ayam, was killed, and 30 bystanders outside were killed as well. They were passing by. 12 had been hospitalized. The village, everyone was tense, as Snavy would make sure that no more life were lost by the Phantom Fox. He scoffed at the name that people started to call him, but he had to agree, it kind of sounded cool. Snavy had released a statement to the people about the investigation of the death of Inuichi and Kiba and Hana, saying that the perpetrator was someone, a fanatic, that was following a dangerous criminal that was convicted years ago. He was on a mission to destroy Konoha, and he was doing so little by little, chipping away at the defenses and at their mind. In the written body statement she had posed a full description of what the murderer looked like when Toki had described him. Most of his clothing was dark and his eyes were closed, as he had a smile on his face, an open dark overcoat with dark clothing underneath. Another was his eyes, as he had drawn his face as well, the blue of his eyes with a silver dot inside. People doubted that it was Naruto Uzumaki, as he was announced dead a long time ago, and a celebration had been thrown for that. Only those that believed in the supernatural believed that it was Naruto and not his follower. But those were only the minority. The others saw the person as Naruto's follower, working to get revenge for that monster. A tiny setback to his plan was the cleaner in the Hokage's office went to throw away the package, but they had saw the device on the bottom with the engine suppressor on it. It had been reported and had been dismantled, and they traced it back to the forest of death. The major components were silver, leading Anko and Ibiki to believe that the person was linked to closer to silver or metal. So conclusive investigations came up, hinting on Naruto's bloodline. The heat on him had forced him into hiding for a little while. There was a strict curfew that was implemented, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Anyone that wasn't an envoy joining that was found outside would be interrogated, but the curfew had been dropped on the 4th day, probably to lure the murderer out, but the security was still on an all-time high. Snavy had said that he worked at night, and this was one of the reasons why he was known as the Phantom Fox. She had ordered for the bars and nightclub to be open, and her ninjas were placed there. Sure, he could go on a rampage and destroy the village, but that would be too easy. He didn't want that, as he fight down the chocolate that threatened to emerge from his throat. He wanted them to suffer as he chipped away their sanity, piece by piece, as he drive them crazy, as he destroyed them from the inside out. He would take everything away from them. He would make them suffer. But guys, if you ain't subscribed right here, if you want to see next person do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notifications he posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in your social media platform, but I'm over now. And also guys, remember to stay tuned for the rest of what is coming your way over Anime King and over on Anime King 3, guys. Yeah, Anime King 2, Anime King 3. I indeed have 3 channels, Anime King 2, Anime King 3, which I post what if every single day for you guys to enjoy. So go ahead, check that out and enjoy, guys. So yeah, without further ado, what do you say we get the hell out of here? See you guys soon. Peace.